Who doesn't love a steamy romance? Better yet, make sure that steamy romance is all about a forbidden love in a period drama set in 1920s England. And you have Lady Chatterley's Lover airing on Netflix in 2022. You've got sex, sensuality, nudity, passion, female liberation, class divisions, beautiful people, gorgeous landscapes, excellent acting and hot chemistry among the lovers in the Netflix version of the classic novel of the same name by D.H. Lawrence. What's not to love? And the author of the classic novel wrote with every intention to highlight the issues of his day, including class division and sexual enlightenment, through the sexual liberation of his character, Lady Chatterley, and her forbidden love of a man of the lower class. In this video, you will discover who the character Lady Chatterley was based upon in real life and how the real Lady Chatterley was far more wild and more sexually active than the demure Constance or Connie Chatterley. Let me begin by setting the stage. In 1920s England, there existed a loose collective of friends of the upper class living and working near Bloomsbury, London, that was comprised of English writers, intellectuals, philosophers, and artists. This group was called the Bloomsbury Group, or Bloomsbury Set, which included writer Virginia Woolf, writer and critic Lytton Strachey, writer E.M. Forster, painter Roger Fry, among others. For a period of time extending from the beginning of the second decade until well into the 30s, the Bloomsbury Group was a powerful cultural establishment in England. The members of the group were united by an abiding belief in the importance of the arts. So the group also included patrons of the arts, those people in the upper echelons who had the money to support and promote the artisans of the group. One such patron was Lady Adeline Morell, an English aristocrat and society hostess. Her patronage was influential in artistic and intellectual circles, where she befriended writers including David Herbert Lawrence, better known as D.H. Lawrence, along with Aldous Huxley, Siegfried Sassoon, and T.S. Eliot. In fact, Lady Adeline has been said to have been featured in works by D.H. Lawrence, including as Hermione Roddice in Women in Love, as well as the inspiration for his novel, Lady Chatterley's Lover. You see, Lady Adeline had her own little sexual liberation going on, and while she was nothing like Constance in looks and personality, she did have an affair with a commoner. More on this in just a bit. Lady Adeline was born Adeline Violet Anne Cavendish Betnick in 1873, the daughter of the heir to a dukedom. Through her father, she was a first cousin once removed of Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother, and a first cousin twice removed of Queen Elizabeth II. Like Constance in the novel, she had an unusual upbringing. Adeline was an eccentric and naive girl who desired more than the aristocratic life's parties and predetermined marriages. She abandoned formal schooling in favor of humanitarian endeavors, religious mysticism, travel, and passionate relationships with unsuitable men. Adeline was 6 feet tall by the time that she reached adulthood. She had a face with powerful features and stunning, flowing red hair. She dressed flamboyantly to be thought ostentatious, and she coveted being thought of as controversial in her lifestyle. Though an aristocrat, she eschewed her background in favor of bohemian unconventionality. One biographer reports that Lady Adeline Morell strove for life on the grand scale. The phrase is taken from a 1927 entry in Adeline's journal. It is indeed a damnably difficult thing to live fully, richly, generously, and yet courageously. To live on the grand scale. Her first love affair was with an older man. She had a long-term relationship with Swedish doctor and author Axel Munthe, who she ultimately rejected when he impulsively proposed marriage because her spiritual beliefs were incompatible with his atheism. She didn't marry until she was almost 30 when, in February 1902, she married the wealthy member of Parliament, Philip Morell, with whom she shared a passion for art and a strong interest in liberal politics. Throughout their marriage, Adeline struggled to conceal evidence of his mental instability. Even while on her honeymoon, she was aware that her marriage would be, in her own words, like brother and sister. Yet, she did manage to get pregnant and gave birth to twins, but the boy died and only the girl lived, which caused her husband to start having affairs because he so desperately desired a son. His selection of mistresses wasn't the best because they frequently consisted of Adeline's employees, such as her secretary and maid. So when Philip's extramarital affairs produced several children, Adeline, who had a kind heart, cared for the children, paying for their education, buying them gifts, and generally looking after their well-being. By this time, the couple shared what would now be known as an open marriage, and Adeline embarked on a series of her own affairs with both men and women. Many of her lovers were part of the Bloomsbury Group. She had a long affair with philosopher Bertrand Russell, who was also married. In the period leading up to their affair, Russell felt that his life was barren of passion and emotion. Nearly a decade had passed since he had announced to his wife that he no longer loved her, though they had continued to live together unhappily. From the beginning of the affair, Adeline was more sensitive than Bertrand was to the practical circumstances that confronted them. While Bertrand wanted Adeline to leave Philip for him, she had no intention of doing so. She cared deeply for Philip and their daughter Julian, even though she acknowledged that she and Philip were more friends than lovers. And unlike Russell, Adeline had also navigated affairs in the past. In fact, Adeline would find it difficult to extricate herself from her affair with the artist Henry Lamb, which had been going on when she met Russell. And just days after the momentous evening when her affair with Russell started, she had had a brief liaison with art historian Roger Fry. The affair between Russell and Adeline lasted for 5 years, and since they were frequently separated, they engaged in a vast correspondence. Even after the affair ended in 1916, they would remain friends and faithful correspondents until Adeline's death. In all, Russell would write 2,000 letters to her, sometimes up to 4 in one day, while Adeline would write just 1,000 to him. Others of Adeline's lovers are said to have included the painter Augustus John, as well as her lesbian affairs with the artist Dora Carrington and English novelist Dorothy Bussey. To be fair, it should be noted that many of the members of the Bloomsbury Group were partaking, if not spearheading, the age of sexual enlightenment of 1920s Europe. Their art reflected their liberalism, but they also lived their philosophies that promoted modern attitudes towards feminism, pacifism, and sexuality. A prime example is the well-known affair between Virginia Woolf and Vita Sackville West, both married women who lived outside the confines of societal norms. It is from this frame of reference that D.H. Lawrence wrote Lady Chatterley's Lover that highlights the need to break from Victorian standards of sex, society, and class. Lawrence believed that love comes after sex, and that is exactly the idea he promotes in his novel. But I digress. Back to Adeline and how she inspired Lady Chatterley's Lover. When Adeline was 40, she had a brief affair with a gardener and stonemason who was employed at her house in the country. His name was Lionel Gom. He was considerably younger than Adeline, bisexual, and her one true love, whom she affectionately called Tiger. According to biographer Miranda Seymour, who first discovered the links to the character of Lady Constance Chatterley, Lionel was very young, very sweet, and he made Adeline very happy sexually. And another telling link to Lady Chatterley can be found in a story from Adeline's childhood that she once told Lawrence. The story goes that when Adeline was growing up in Nottinghamshire, her mother used to take her along on afternoon carriage rides from their grand home, Welbeck Abbey, to visit a gamekeeper whose name was Mellors. At this point, it seems pretty clear that D.H. Lawrence based the gamekeeper Oliver Mellors and his actions in Lady Chatterley's Lover on the aunt's gamekeeper Lionel Gom. Throughout all of Adeline's life, Lionel was the first person she truly developed passionate feelings for. Sadly, he fell ill while Adeline and her daughter were away, and upon their return, he died of a brain hemorrhage in her arms. Adeline was heartbroken and went so far as to consult spiritualists to try to contact him. She was devastated by his death. Biographer Miranda Seymour says, her relationship with Tiger was the most sexually fulfilling of her life, and that fits nicely with the idea of her as Constance Chatterley. Lady Adeline, who had always yearned to be an artist herself, instead left a literary legacy through the fictional character that she had inspired. Hey, thanks for watching, and here's another video on one of the many fabulous, fierce, and feisty women in history.